The sun bled orange across the high desert when Maria first saw the dust cloud rising like a warning from the south. She was on her knees in the corral, coaxing a lame mare to trust her again, when the riders came. 6 of them, bandanas pulled high, rifles glinting like cruel stars. Her husband Tomás stood at the gate, pitchfork in hand, his 73 years etched into every line of his face. Didn't they speak? Didn't they need to? The lead rider spat a single word, water, and the others dismounted. Maria rose slowly, wiping her hands on her apron. She had seen hard men before, the borderlands bred them like cactus bred thorns. But these carried a hunger that went beyond thirst. They wanted the well, the horses, the land. They wanted to erase the quiet life she and Tomás had carved from sand and stubborn hope. When Tomás stepped forward, boy steady as the mountains, take what you need and ride on, the first blow came without warning. The butt of a rifle cracked against his temple. It crumpled like a sack of grain. Maria screamed once, "Sarp, animal," then bit it back. The second man grabbed her wrist, twisting until she felt the bone protest. "Watch," he hissed, forcing her face toward Tomás. The old rancher tried to rise, another boot drove him down. Blood pooled beneath his cheek, dark against the dust. Maria's world narrowed to the sound of her husband's ragged breathing and the laughter of strangers. They took everything, the well bucket, the saddles, the last of the winter hay. One rider even pried the silver wedding band from Tomás' swollen finger, slipping it onto his own like a trophy. When they finally rode out, the sky had gone bruise purple, and Maria was alone with the ruin of her life. She knelt beside Tomás. His eyes fluttered open, cloudy with pain. "Maria," his voice cracked like dry earth. "The horses, let them go. Savage yourself." She pressed her forehead to his. "I'm saving us both, viejo." Then she kissed the place where blood met dust and stood. The Apache camp lay 3 days, right into the jagged teeth of the Sierra Madre. Maria had never gone there alone. Tomás always said the old alliances were fragile as spider silk, that kindness given years ago didn't guarantee kindness returned. But Maria remembered the winter of '89, when locusts stripped the range bare and the Apache brought dried venison to their door. She remembered the chief's daughter, Nisoni, who had once fallen ill with fever, and how Maria nursed her through the night with willow bark tea and lullabies in Spanish. Dates like that didn't fade. She rode at Tomás' favorite mare, Luna, bareback, the reins knotted from baling twine. The desert tried to kill her, scorpions under her bedroll, a rattlesnake called in her boot at dawn, thirst that turned her tongue to leather. On the second night she dreamed of Tomás dying alone, and woke sobbing so hard the coyotes answered. When she reached the camp, the warriors circled her like wolves. She dismounted, legs trembling, and spoke in the trade Spanish the Apache understood. "My husband is hurt. Men took everything. He come to ask for the dead of the venison winter." Silence. Then Nisoni stepped forward, taller now, braids threaded with hawk feathers. She studied Maria's cracked lips, the desperation carved into her face. "How many men?" she asked. 6. Nisoni's smile was thin as a blade. 6 feathers for 6 hearts. Bamon Rice, 500 riders gathered. Not all Apache, some were Yaqui, some mestizo vaqueros who owed the tribe favors, some simply men who hated bullies. They painted their faces with ochre and ash. Maria painted nothing. Her face was already war. They rode north under a sky thick with stars. Maria lit, though she had never led anything larger than a string of pack mules. Luna sensed the change in her, the mare's hairs flicked forward, eager. Baying them, hooves thundered like a storm held in check. They found the raiders 3 days later, camped in the ruins of an old mission, drunk on stolen mezcal. Maria's heart hammered so loudly she feared they'd hear it. Nisoni touched her shoulder. "Remember the venison," she whispered. "Remember the child who lived." The attack was swift as a hawk's stoop. Arrows whispered. Rifles cracked. The raiders stumbled from their bedrolls, cursing, fumbling for weapons that didn't there. Maria rode straight to the fire where the leader sat, Tomás' ring glinting on his finger. He looked up, recognition dawning too late. She didn't shoot. She didn't need to. Nisoni's tomahawk took the hand that wore the ring. When it was over, the desert was quiet again. The raiders, those still breathing, were bound and left for the territorial marshal. Maria found Tomas' ring in the dust, cleaned it on her sleeve, and slipped it into her pocket. They reached the ranch at dawn. Tomas sat on the porch, bandaged by the neighborhood found him crawling toward the house. His eyes, milky with age and pain, widened when he saw the riders. 500 strong, they filled the corral, the yard, the horizon. Maria dismounted and walked to him, legs shaking worse than they had in the Sierra. Maria, he croaked, you brought an army. I brought family, she said. Nisoni stepped forward, pressed a bundle into Tomas' hands, dried meat, enough for a month. For the child who will come, she said, nodding at Maria's still flat belly. No one had known. Maria hadn't known until the ride north, when the nausea came not from fear but from life insisting on itself. Tomas wept then, soundlessly, tears cutting channels through the dust on his cheeks. Maria knelt, pressed her forehead to his knee the way she had in the corral days ago around them. The riders began to sing, a low, rolling chant that sounded like wind through cottonwoods. One by one, they left gifts, a colt with a white blaze, a saddle tooled with eagles, a cradleboard carved from cedar. By noon, the ranch was richer than it had ever been, not in gold but in something fiercer. That night, Maria sat on the porch with Tomas, his head in her lap. The stars were sharp enough to cut. I thought kindness was soft, he murmured. Turns out it's the hardest thing there is. Maria threaded her fingers through his thinning hair. Soft things bend, viejo. Hard things break. Years later, travelers would speak of the ranch where Apache and vaquero worked side by side, where a woman with fire in her eyes led roundups and told stories to children who spoke 3 languages before they could read. They speak of the old men who carved whistles from mesquite and taught every child, brown, white, or in between, how to gentle a horse with nothing but patience. And if you ask Maria how it began, she'd touch the silver ring on her finger, worn thin now, and say, it began with a beating. It ended with a promise. Everything in between was just love learning how to fight.